Hello everyone, welcome back to the Alfa Romeo save. We're currently about to start Mexico. We have just a few races left this season with, I believe it is 4 now to go. I see Mexico, Sao Paulo, Las Vegas, and Yas Island. Should be pretty, well, easily done. We have about a 40 point gap down to Alpine. We have no chance of catching Mercedes. And generally here, honestly, it would probably be better for us to finish 6th rather than 5th, but 5th is what we are currently looking at. Next year, we are going to have to see what we do with here with the head of aerodynamics. Still a bit of an open position. We might, as I said, try and give him just a 1-year contract and then replace him next season. But again, it's pretty open what we'll do with these two boys. Now, if you have enjoyed this series so far, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, as it helps me out a ton. Kind of need to get that in there, sorry about that, but it is helpful when you do, so thank you. And, well, we're going to get right into it. So last time around, I was talking about the fact that we have some damage to the cars, mainly the powertrains there. And if we were to, say, lose any more of them, we are basically going to be sitting on the sidelines for the rest of the season. We have bought all the components that we can now. We're not going to buy a single extra unless we really break what we have left. And the cost gap kind of reflects that we're just 8.7 million left, but we also only have 4 races to go. If we are lucky, that 8.7 million left should be enough to get us research-wise through these last couple of months. Again, these two underfloor suspension should just be a maximum 1 research. Might be able to, you know, sneak in 2 researches for these two. But honestly, again, it's not something that is super major for us. And in terms of regulations here, chassis still needs a little bit more work. Again, the airflow regulation, it does hit us pretty hard. But we have done, you know, a little bit too well on the front wing, I think. The rear wing here, it would be nice to have a little bit more drag reduction. We are almost caught up on the side pods. The underfloor, again, it's airflow sensitivity. It is basically when you follow. So we're going to have to do a little bit more for the suspension, I think. But we are getting there. Research-wise, we're going to have a much better car next season. Contract-wise, we have given Show probably, you know, a bit more of a too good of a contract, honestly. But that is also, in this case, perfectly okay. Now, we are going to just speed around to the Mexican Grand Prix. There's not much to say here, really. We're just going to power through, if you will. Because, as I said, there's not much left in the season for us. We are kind of running out of options. We're not going to be scoring many points, so we're only going to gamble on getting both cars into Q2 there. We're not going to put any car in Q3, just to be on the safe side. Sorry, I meant Q3 when I said Q1. And I think that is the best that we can bet for. So we'll head to Mexico here, see if we can have some good results, and generally just, you know, get through this weekend without any problems. Quali went a little bit better than we expected here, as we qualified 9th and 15th. But unfortunately for show, but as you can see here, the fastest laps weren't actually that far from each other, so just a bit of bad luck there for show in Q2. Couldn't really get a good run on the second attempt, and that kind of delegated him to 15th, so just a case of bad luck, really. Now, in terms of the tires here in Mexico, the softs have about a 310 advantage over the mediums, but the degradation is just 200s, leading to them being quicker for a little bit over 15 laps, since it's basically, you know, a little bit over 300s, basically 34 hundreds, well, 3.4 tenths, which is 34 hundreds, so yeah, 17 laps. Medium to hard, there's 5/10 difference, and again, 200, so again, it'll be 25 laps before the hards become equal to the mediums, so we want to avoid them. But also, for the most part here, we're actually going to have a very rainy race, as you can see. It's going to start raining very quickly, and it's going to start going from virtually, you know, lap 1 here. So, pitting is going to be kind of an interesting one, but we don't actually know how much rain we're going to get. As you can see, the grip pace is still going to be very high throughout the race, so again, I really wish we just had a millimeter count at the side here that would tell us kind of what we can expect. It would make planning a lot easier. And again, it feels like more of a rolling of the dice. How much water you get? Because what is, you know, half a line here, the rule of thumb was that you know, this should be full wets this period right here, potentially. But again, it's kind of hard to judge when you have no sort of reference, and you know the levels are very, very different from track to track. But what we are going to do with, of course, the rain starting very, very early is very simply start on the softs. There's no real, you know, other opportunity here than to do that. We're also going to underfuel the cars by a lap. Reason for that is actually incredibly simple. Because we're getting rain, there's no reason for us to run full fuel loads. Well, we're basically just saving a little bit of pushing there with fuel. So we're starting 5th and 13th because of, well, a lot of penalties for other teams. So we'll try and make the most of this as we can. This is basically very, very simple. We'll start on softs. We'll see how badly the rain hits, but again, it is actually expected here that we're basically from the get-go gonna have a fairly wet track. So it's gonna be interesting here to see how these first few laps actually develop.
We're nearly ready to get started. What will happen next? We're about to find out at the Mexico City Grand Prix.
Is that Inters?
Lights out, and away we go.
There's no water on track. Verstappen has started Inters. Sainz has started Inters. Hamilton, Albon. Alonso started on freaking hards. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. Look at the turtle! Look at the turtle! Oh, come on, Bottas, go past, nice, go show, go. Okay, so we're not gonna have any, you know, pit stop problems here because Verstappen just isn't getting gone. Look at that. Might we get a red flag here just from, you know, problems with the cars from the get-go here? Because I assume those Inters are just going to get chewed up even harder than our tires are going to be. Okay, so any bets on how far behind these guys are going to be by the time we get to... Oh, Alonso overtakes Bottas. Well, it's actually fine. I'm wondering just how far behind these guys are going to be by the time we actually get to the rainy period. Because again, you have to wait 4 minutes here for the period to switch. In theory, it should start raining about now. But Leclerc, Russell, they gain a lot of time there from this shenanigans, as has well, the rest here. Degradation-wise, the tires are also going pretty quickly. There's no way around that, as you can see. But again, I'm very, very confused here about why they have chosen to start on the Inters. It just doesn't make much sense to me. And the game broke. The game broke. I want to see if they start on Inters again, so we'll be right back. Alright, I believe everything has been set up as it was. Let us see now if we actually end up with, well, the AI on the same tires. It looks like it. So, this is going to be a bit interesting. Inters now for Alonso. So we have even more cars here now running Inters. This is going to be a bit interesting, for sure. Unfortunately, we're starting in a position where we can't really take advantage. So what we're going to try for Bottas is to just drive in clean air and see if he immediately gets by doing, well, that. And we're going to do the same here for sure. Just driving clean air until they, you know, get out of this this bit of mayhem, because that is basically what it's going to be right now with this many cars on Inters from the get-go. And apologies for the weird noises. I don't know if it actually just picked up the way the mic. But my headset had run out of battery, so I need to switch that quick. Bottas immediately does turn into clear air and drives by a lot easier than he did last time at least, so that is good. Still a bit behind the other cars. Shohei is up into 6th now, so he too did a good job getting by the other cars. That worked. Still works pretty well, driving clean air if you know you're going to get stuck behind slower cars. In this case, all the Interrunners. So Perez is kind of still getting bogged down. We'll have to see how quickly he actually can clear. the 10 runners here that are on Inter tires. And of course, if the Inter tire runners are going to have an advantage over us because, well, it's not going to be great here. So Paris is already 10 seconds behind the leader. And, well, while we are also pretty far back, it's not as bad for us. So we're going to have to wait for these 4 minutes until it starts raining. Probably going to start raining on the 1 minute mark. But yeah, the fact that they started on the Inters even on a reload is a bit surprising, honestly. Hamilton there with a lockup. Puts him firmly in the back with virtually wasted Inters. He's going to need to pit immediately anyways. But yeah, you can imagine that this comes as, you know, a bit of a surprise to me that they actually elected to do things in this manner. So Show is running 6th currently behind Magnussen. Sainz is already 17 seconds, basically full pit stop behind Perez. So yeah, this inter-gamble of theirs has not paid off. Rain has begun. It is going up, but I think it's going up slowly enough here that we'll do one more lap. We can, of course, just get Show in now, just to, you know, lessen the burden, if you will. But I think we're just going to run both of them for one more lap. There's no need to stress here. It is going up fairly slow. And we'll make another, you know, adjustment or rather decision once we reach the end of this lap on whether we want to, you know, properly pit. And honestly, I think we're going to be brave here. We're going to keep Bottas out for one more lap. We're going to get Show in this lap. And we're going to try and not, as one might think, stack the pits in a way that is negative for us. So Bottas might get a little bit sacrificed here as a result. It's just how it's going to be. We usually lose a lot of time here in the pits by basically just getting kind of parked behind. Although Show looked to have come out well here on his end. So maybe it wasn't the best idea to keep him out for one more lap. But at the same time, I think it might very well end up being worth it. We'll see. I'll see now when Bottas actually pits just how much time he lost. Lost a decent amount of time to most people by the looks of things. But again, it'll depend on when it actually comes out. So he is coming out behind Show. Did lose out a little bit there, but honestly, a double stack would probably have been worse for us, in all honesty. And the fact that we're now running third and fourth is actually not bad for us. Of course, it would have been better to switch the cars around, but this still works out to our advantage, and everyone here is going to have to pit pretty soon. Sainz, Verstappen, they've used 30% of their tires before the rain even arrived. Now, in terms of the heat here, 105 degrees, we can still push these tires some more. That's not actually a problem. And we're actually going to get more rain here as the race goes on. I'm worried if this is going to be full wet territory or if it's actually going to be into territory, but we need to keep these tires alive till lap 30. And as you can see, that is very, very doable while running attack. So we'll just keep things as they are. In terms of lap times, we're running a bit slower here with Show, as you can see. He's running about half a second slower than Russell, but we aren't too far off in terms of lap times. Bottas is actually running equivalent lap times to, say, the quicker cars in front. It's just Show that is a tad slow. So, yeah. Potentially here, we'll just have Show step aside and allow Bottas to get by. Because Bottas is running, as I said, lap times that are good, to put it that way. Might need to tune both of them down a little bit here now, because we are reaching that dangerous heat level, which could, of course, be bad for us. But I think we're just going to allow Show here to not fight his teammate once Bottas actually catches up, and just allow Bottas to kind of slide by, if you will. Because Bottas is, in theory, quicker on these tires, but we'll see. For now, though, it's looking honestly really, really good.
Feedback on track conditions.
We're now back to dry conditions. Time to tune down the tires even more.
It's getting close with the slicks.
And it is going to be a little bit, few laps here with really, you know, drier track, which could actually be pretty bad for us. So we're actually just going to tune it down even further here to light. Because again, the drier the track is, the more we lose durability. It goes down quicker with the track rather than the heat in this case. So we'll just tune it down. We have a virtual safety car.
VSC.
Bottas has been overtaken, but honestly, shouldn't be a problem. Albon there with a bit of a crash. Let's have a look.
Here we are then at the 11th corner. And that's the moment the car plows into the wall. And they'll definitely be facing...
Could be a broken suspension. Yeah, it is. He's out.
Big chunt.
Yeah, Bottas there to get overtaken here when we tune down the cars.
Is he okay?
But at the same time, it's not actually a big concern. As you can see, all of the cars that stayed out long on that first stint or started on the intermediates are, unsurprisingly, actually pitting now. And, you know, going to try and change how they're doing things. But again, this is going to be the interesting one because it's kind of wet, but not really. Well, kind of full wets, but not really. So we'll have to see just exactly how wet it becomes. That's going to be the thing here. That's going to be decisive. Now we're going to switch back to full attack. We are getting a wetter track. It's just going to keep on getting wetter from this point forwards. So we'll go back to going full attack now until we get to the pit stop, if you will. We're also going to allow Bottas here to deploy and try and get past Gasly again. And if need be, we'll just ask Joe to let him go. We do have really, you know, we're really bad at following other cars. Remember, this is a car that is probably the 7th best on the grid or something like that. So we're running far beyond where we should be, to put it into, you know, easier terms, if you will. So we'll have to see exactly how long we can hold on to these positions and if we can, as I said, make something out of this. If it does go wet or if it stays inters, that's going to basically be the big gamble. So until we get there, we're going to keep on fighting with Bottas and Show, see if we can get ourselves a little bit further off the grid. But until then, we'll just speed things along. We have another virtual safety car here. That actually is going to be pretty good for us. As you can see, we've had to tune down our cars here because the running full attack put a little bit too much heat into them. So we've kind of been alternating. But Sargent's had a bit of an issue here. Same corner as Albon. Kind of the same crash too there. He too is now out. Both Williams doing the same thing. Joe's still holding on to third. Kind of gaining actually on Russell, which is very nice. Stroll has left Magnussen behind and it's gaining on us though. So we'll have to see if we can, again, take advantage of this. But so far, it's looking really good. The only problem, of course, is Gasly, who we can't have a fight with. But Show currently holding his position there. It's going to make, you know, things a little bit better. Now, a lot of cars are actually taking this virtual safety car as an opportunity to pit. Because as you can see here, we're actually not going to have... it's not going to get super wet again. But if we can keep these tires alive for as long as possible, that's going to be what we're going to do. And as you can see, as I said, it's not going to go into full wets. Potentially a little bit here. But right now it's not looking as severe as it was a little bit earlier. VSC is ending, so we'll not be taking advantage of this. But of course we are going to be pushing the tires somewhat. And I guess once we get about 50% here, we'll go ahead and pit maybe a little bit sooner than anticipated. And we'll just have to, again, deal with things as they arrive, if you will. For now, though, we'll continue doing what we have been doing, and we'll see where we end up by the end. Something that is a bit interesting to note here is that Verstappen has just put on fresh inters, and he is running 24.5s versus Perez 27.1s. So, let's be honest here, if we can save 1.5 seconds a lap by pitting, it's definitely going to be worth it. So we're going to push these for a couple more laps, and we might have to see if maybe we try and do a 2-stopper. Well, what I mean is 2 more pit stops. And the idea behind that is actually very simple. If we can push 2 inters, full attack here, to the end, we can basically, you know, save a bunch of time. It's kind of hard to, you know, calculate inters though. That's the thing. But we can run them full attack. Pit stops here are not too bad in terms of track loss, unless I'm mistaken. Might have misremembered that. We'll have a look. 24 seconds, so not super bad, but not great either. And again, if we're gaining 1.5 seconds, we just need 20 laps on the tires to make it worth it. So it could be doable, but that would mean that we're going to gamble on pitting immediately. And it also means that we're going to gamble on getting overtakes done. We're basically going to be coming out for Bottas, and Show for that matter, around Verstappen. I think we're going to keep Show out though, because he's kind of... I was about to say he's kind of holding up the rest of the grid. He isn't really. That's the thing. He's holding up Bottas. So I'm thinking that we're going to gamble on getting Bottas in, but we might try and stretch show into a, you know, two-stopper. In theory, this is just 0.8 seconds quicker, but it's a gamble that I am feeling could pay off very, very well. The main thing here now is just going to be where do we actually come out? If we can, say, beat Verstappen and Sainz, that would be perfect, but I think that's going to be a bit of a wishful thinking here. And maybe not. We even beat Norris, so honestly, that's a pretty good stop there from Bottas. And I think that also tells us that we should do the same here with Show. Even with a 3-second stop time, he still came out ahead. So, again, it is kind of giving up a little bit of track position, but we are going to have free air to, you know, contend with. It might be a bit silly to do a two-stopper here on, you know, wet tires, but I'm thinking it's going to pay off towards the end of the race. That's what I'm gambling on here. That we'll be able to have enough pace now that we can hunt down Magnus and hunt down Stroll and catch up to Gasly and Paris again. And in terms of the lap times now, Bottas is doing 125.5s. Remember, they were doing 127s before this. What we could have done, though, is, of course, keep Show out, because as you can see here, he's still doing pretty slow lap times. He doesn't have the adaptability, really, to be effective here, I believe. And we could have kept him out to actually slow down Perez here by about a second. Immediately, Perez has kind of been let go to hunt down Russell. So pitting Show might have been the error, but I still think pitting Bottas here is probably the play. But again, we're kind of required to have free air to play with to make this work. Otherwise, it's just going to not be very reliable. Gasly here has opted for the same strategy that we did. He pitted for a new set of inters, but he's probably going to be sticking on those inters till the end of the race. Now for Bottas, I'm going to give him high risk here on the overtaking. Bit of a shame here that we couldn't actually have Show overtake Gasly and slow him down. But it is what it is. It is a wet track. We are bad at following. Bottas said did look like he got kind of blocked, but we don't really have much of a choice other than just trying to overtake the Haas as soon as possible. And that's what we're going to do. Try and get by the Haas and try and make our way up the track as quickly as we can. And we'll have to see what we do with Show and Gasly. That's going to be a different story. We've had another incident here, another crash with Tsunoda. That looked slow. That's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, it's a bit just of a light touch there. Now, currently we're running 4th and 8th here. Everyone else has pitted except for Stroll, as you can see. So we're kind of on the same, not really the same wavelength, but close to it, because we are going to be aiming at pitting again. So what I'm considering right now is actually having Bottas go full defense and see if we could have Show maybe overtake the 2 cars behind and basically play defense, because he can actually hold them up till the end if we get the overtake done. So if we switch Bottas over to always defend, we are kind of letting go of Stroll, we're letting go of Paris, we're letting go of Leclerc, but let's face it, we're running 4th. The main fight that we have is actually with Gasly, and if we can hold up Gasly, that actually works out as a win for us. That is our fight, and that is actually something that is very important to recognize in this game. You have fights that you're going to have to, you know, decide to take or not take. In this case, it's going to be if we want to fight with Gasly and then, you know, hold him up. And that is our fight. We can't really fight with the other cars. We could, of course, fight for a 3rd place if we really wanted to. But it's going to cost us. Basically, it's going to be an all-in gamble. But in this case, we need to recognize who we're actually, you know, having problems with. And the main adversary of ours is going to be, of course, Gasly in this case. Now, if we can hold up these other cars here to the point where, say, Show can get some overtakes done, that would work out beautifully. In all honesty, though, it's probably not going to really benefit us too much, so I think we'll just go back to pushing here. Honestly, I should have done that earlier, because Stroll can actually play that role for us, because he's still staying out on older tires. So if we can get by Stroll, then we might have him serve as, you know, that defendant, if you will. And again, Show is just a tad too slow here to play this role that we want to give Bottas, so it's unfortunate, but it just won't work with the current driver lineup, if you will. Now, in terms of pitting Bottas again, as you can see here, we have a lot of room down to Magnussen. The question with pitting again now is going to be, can we catch up to the other cars that are in time? And do we want to stay out till lap, say, 60 and go on to basically full wets? That might be the play here, honestly. Because currently we are still pushing ahead. The main concern, though, is going to be a bit looking into the fuel. So for now, we're going to tune down fuel usage a little bit. But generally, yeah, I say we are in a fairly strong position. Because again, it is going to go to full wet for a little bit. And that could, you know, change things around a little bit here as we go. Stroll, still doing a great job there, being kind of a blocker. The bigger the gap Bottas manages Stroll, the better of a chance we have of a potential podium here. And honestly, again, I did say recognize your fight. Our fight here is with Gasly. That is the thing. Gasly is going to be the problem here. The other problem child, Ocon, is down in 14th. So we don't really need to worry about him. The only thing we really need to worry about here is, as I said, Gasly. And as long as, well, our driver beats him, we have nothing to worry about. And the thing is here now, the fight has actually changed. Because what we initially expected was that we were going to stay on the Inters for the entire race. Now we can see that around lap 60, we might have to switch to full wet tires. And because of that, having Bottas push ahead, get a little bit of a gap to Gasly is probably the best thing we could do for him. And honestly, that is what we're going to do. Now, this is also a bit of a, you know, a difficult choice. Many, you know, options that could be wrong, could be right. Stroll pitting, there's probably not going to be a right one. But you probably get what I mean here. By picking your fights is going to be an important, you know, skill to have in this case. And while we aren't exactly doing it very well right now, we are still getting Bottas into a position where he can beat Gasly. Show a little bit harder. We can't really help him too much with Bottas. That's the thing. If we help Show, we're going to be sacrificing Bottas. And, well, it's better to just have Show run where he is. Have him fight for, say, a couple of points towards the end there. And that will benefit us far more than if we did something else. But as you can see here, the weather has changed again. It's not going to go full wets. Now we just need to keep these tires alive till the end. And that's going to be a bit of a bigger challenge. We suddenly have had everything backfire on us yet again. It is going to go full west there for a second, but even that isn't going to be worth, I think, pitting again. So now we are in an actual precarious situation. Because it's just barely that we're going to be able to keep these tires alive till the end. So Bottas here has a ton of work ahead of him. And so does Show. But again, Show has a little bit more breathing space. So yeah. Again, backfired. Just how it's going to have to be. We're just going to have to deal with that. For now though, Bottas, with running aggressive, is able to stay ahead of the Merc. But Russell has way more tire than we do. So towards the end here, when he starts going attack, aggressive, deploy, we're probably going to have a bit of a rough time. We probably are just going to barely make these tires survive. So for now, we're going to push fuel a little bit here, lighten the car as much as possible, and we're going to save as much ERS as we can till the final straight here. Sorry that this entire race basically has been added in. Russell has overtaken us there, not a big surprise. And we have Gasly now about to, you know, challenge us for 5th. So, well, 4th. So we might still lose out here a little bit to Alpine. We have Show. He's getting caught right now by both Sainz and Stroll. He's going to have a bit of a worse time too. So in theory, honestly, it probably would have been better for us to just go all in on that tree stopper. But again, we got fooled by the weather forecast. It looked like we were going to have full rain. It did not come to pass, and that did put us into now a very, very bad situation. We're going to tune him up to full attack here now for Show. It's the best way we can try and keep him ahead of the cars behind. Bottas still has 3 laps to do. We do lose about 2% of tire each lap here, so we're still fine as long as we can keep Gasly behind for this lap, and then we can just deploy starting probably halfway through this one. And that should be enough that we can just keep him somewhat at bay. Leclerc has started final lap. Bottas here is starting his, well, he's about 1.5 laps behind. Show is doing everything he can to defend as well. We can deploy with him as well. And for Bottas, the main thing that we're going to have to pay attention to now is the fuel. I think Show should be fine. Bottas might be in a little bit in a potential danger zone here. Looks like we did keep him behind at least in the first straight, which is going to be massive for us. And let's face it, points here are basically equivalent to beating Alpine. Just straight up.
That's Leclerc.
And we have Leclerc finished,
is today's winner.
which means that we should be finishing soon too. Russell ended up 4 seconds ahead of us. Again, if we had played our cars a little bit better, we could have potentially gotten a podium here. But it does look like we'll at least be able to secure that 4th place. Joe, if he can hold on to 7th, would also be massive, honestly.
Well then, guys.
And
Thanks, guys.
Magnussen here actually gets a point in the Haas. So, honestly, a pretty good race weekend for all of us. But mainly due to, again, the AI choosing a pretty silly strategy there. But then again, they expected rain by the end of lap 1. And again, the rain didn't come until basically lap 4 because of the short laps around this place. But we ended up 4th. Perez made up 18 places to get up into 2nd. Show ended up 7th. It is still a very, very acceptable race for us, let's be honest. In the championship then, Bottas is still running 8th. He is pretty safe here from Russell, honestly. Could potentially get Stroll by the end of this, but we'll see. And we now gain an extra 8 points on Alpine, putting us almost 50 points ahead. And we have a pretty safe lead here then. I think 5th should be on the table. We also have the 2 quickest pit stops, although I believe Bottas had a very, very low pit stop mistake here. Stuck wheel nut, Monaco flashbacks basically. And same here for Show, but they actually sorted out those pit stop errors pretty quick. And we didn't actually lose too much time from them, so we'll take that for sure. Now, had I pitted them the other way around, basically Bottas first and Show second, we probably would have gotten a podium in that race. I won't lie. It would have put us in a much better position to potentially score a podium. But mistakes happen, and we'll just have to live with them. But again, the thing that I was speaking about with knowing who you're fighting is something that pisses drivers off in Formula 1 because it's big picture. It doesn't care about just the race, and it's something Ferrari does a lot. And it does annoy Sainz in particular, for that matter. But it's basically just recognizing who you are really fighting and what you need to do to actually stay ahead of them. Because again, our fights aren't with the 4 teams ahead of us. We can't really beat them at this stage. Our fight is with Alpine only. So as long as we beat the Alpine cars, we've actually had a good race weekend. Although in this case, it did kind of backfire because, as I said, we could have ended up a little bit higher on up the grid than we did. Finally, the TR period has started. Car part inspection, we failed for the underfloor, rear wing and side pods. We'll just replace those. The chassis manufacturing has completed. We also have some driver tension here between Bottas and his engineer. And we'll do what we usually do and just intervene. It seems to solve the problems most of the time. And we'll be very, very happy with that. In terms of the championship here, though, I kind of forgot to have a look at this, but Perez is leading now over Verstappen by just 3 points. Then Leclerc is still in the fight. It's 10 points between the top 3 with 3 races to go. Don't see this often, though, so we can still have a very, very interesting end to the season. So yeah, kind of forgot to mention that in my elation. Now, I don't think we're going to be making any more pieces. Worst case scenario here, we'll just downgrade. Because again, we have 50 or so points on Alpine. And they're going to have to put in a lot of effort to catch us. We also do have that money issue, as I mentioned. So we are kind of limited on money. And that also limits what we can do here. So I think what we're going to do here is just jump straight into Sao Paulo. Although we have actually manufactured an underfloor here. Still have some projects going. We are going to be picking up Sofia here, probably as a reserve maybe next season. We'll have to see. I'm a little bit unsure how we're actually going to do this Cabal, because I have done the same mistake as I did on the other save, which is that I have signed a pre-contract with Porsche. So, unless I offer him a different contract, say we put him in car 2 maybe. I don't know how this would actually affect the current contracts. But in theory, it wouldn't actually cost us too much. We could potentially put him in for, as you saw, show. But again, I don't know how I want to deal with this because again, it is a problem of my own making. We'll have to see. I do want to have some female drivers have a go at things though, so we'll have to see exactly how we fix that cabal, if you will. Okay, so they actually solved everything. Bottas has up morale. They get their affinity back. Everything is solved, and we solved it before the race itself, which is also very, very nice. Now, the board is currently not happy with us getting close to breaking the cost cap limit, so that's okay. And honestly, I don't think even if we lose some of the board's confidence, it'll be a big problem. Again, here, this isn't accurate. We're not the 5th best team in terms of cornering. We'll have a look at that once we actually get to race weekend again, and they put in the proper pieces. Now, in terms of the training here, we still have the quickest pit stop crew, but those areas are starting to cost. They are starting to become very expensive. Let's put it like that. So I think for this month too, we're going to be focusing on the pit stop areas, and that is exactly what we'll do. And I think we'll do the same over winter break. We're going to be maxing, of course, the pit stop times. We're going to be minimizing them, to the lowest that we can go. But we're also going to be focusing on pit stop areas during that month. It's just how things are going to have to be. Because again, it is going to be a bit of a rough one. So that's what we're going to do for this month. We're just going to put in pit stop area training for the rest of it too. Because honestly, that is probably the best we can do. And we don't really want to start working on the pit stop times until probably January, February. So we can get them down just before the race. But this is what we're going to do with this month. Which is basically just a potential here to lessen the error chance a little bit. We gain 4 points and everything. So it's not a massive gain. But over time, it's going to help for sure. And, well, the cost cap limit, it's a problem, but not one that we need to be too worried about right now. Q3, I think we can gamble on getting one drive into Q3. Even if we fail it, it won't be that costly. 35,000. We can survive that. And we do also want to try and save up some money for next season so we can actually develop the car. So I think this is fine for now. In terms of development facilities, I'd also really love to get this one upgraded to level 3. It's actually going to help us a lot if we do. So I think we are going to do this before the start of next season. It's going to cost us, again, 11 million. It's going to put us into, the borders of this might be a terrible idea. It's also going to take 100 days, which means that we won't have this done until basically early February. But that's basically when we're going to need it anyway, so this is actually the best time to upgrade it. But let's have a look at the finances, what we can expect to have in terms of money. So we'll get 5 million from the monthly balance for December. We'll probably get the same for January, so I say we have 10 million there. And we're also going to be getting a little bit of money from, well, the races. Let's say we've been getting about 3 or so million. So let's say 3 million times 3, 9 million. We basically have 40 million now. We're going to be spending 21 of those on the engine. I think we'll still be fine, honestly. Now I think about it, we'll have a look at it in the season, but I think upgrading to level 4 is just going to be level 3 is just going to be good for next season. Because if we want to have the car past manufacture to Bahrain, we're going to need 4 slots, unless we're planning on rushing something. 4 slots is actually a really, really good middle ground. So we're going to upgrade the factory. I really would like to get these two up and running. I really would like to put some more money into the staff sims here, honestly. But I think this is also an acceptable way to spend the money, and we'll try and focus a bit more on them next season. For now, though, let's jump into this sprint and see how we do. As you can see, we're going to have a very interesting sprint again here with some heavy rain incoming. Always fun. Qualification-wise, Jesus. In terms of qualifying, we qualified 8th and 13th, but there's still going to be some penalties to apply. And I did, of course, also forget that there is a secondary practice after quali. But honestly, quali went pretty well for us. We achieved what we set out to do. And honestly, show just couldn't get through this time on pace. It's just a bit close, a bit unlucky. Not the best setups either, but they do get the job done. And for Bottas, he doesn't actually have an extra gearbox, which is why we haven't put him on a, damaged one. That is the final gearbox that Bottas has. He's going to have to live with that until the end of the season. So, yeah. this is how we're going to have to do it. And as I said, there are some penalties to come, which could, of course, change where we actually end up starting. And, of course, could change the sprint out a little bit here. We are going to have rain too, which is going to make life a little bit interesting.
Welcome back as the
Doesn't look like the rain's going to be starting from the get-go. It's just going to be heavy rain arriving. Okay, heavy rain just for the practice then. So no rain for the sprint. It was just there for the practice. Nope, we don't want to spend more money. It was just there for the practice then. Okay, that is fine. We can actually deal with that. Now, the sprint itself here should be pretty simple in terms of what we do. It should just be a parade. Go aggressive, go full attack, then run aggressive on the normals. Sorry, the mediums, not the normals. It's basically all that we really can do here. We don't really have a lot of wiggle room. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of a predictable race with that. We're going to be falling back probably a couple of places with Bottas for sure. We're starting 6th and 8th here, so considering that there were 5 places between them when we qualifying, there's been a lot of penalties applied here. Show's basically been promoted 5 places, and Bottas promoted twice, so yeah, going to be a tad interesting here. But we are going to be running these mediums to basically the ground unless we get, say, a safety car. So we'll start on the mediums, we'll run them attack, we'll tune them to standard for probably 2 or 3 laps to make up for the attack, and then go aggressive till the end. I think that is going to be the plan here. There's not really any need to have a look at the tyre differences because, well, the mediums are going to be the only thing that is viable here. We don't really have hards to use, is the thing. And as you can see, everyone has chosen mediums. Bit of a bad start there from the Ocon. I don't know if that caused us some problems. No, it didn't, because this is a sprint. Penalties hasn't actually been applied yet, so we still started 8th and 13th. Possibly a little bit of confusion there, but it's still not bad. We'll take that. Starting wise here, I'd say it's pretty decent. We retained our positions for both drivers. Basically all we can really ask for. And we're just going to try and speed things up and get through this little sprint of ours. Now, for Bottas, he's still in a pretty good position, honestly. We have Alonso to contend with. We have a little bit of a gap to the car behind. But we are actually quicker than Alonso in the current moment, which is interesting to see for sure. And while I might be tuning down the car a tad bit too early here, I think it's going to be worth it. We kind of want to use Alonso as a shield if we can. Tune down ERS usage. We're going to still push fuel for this one lap. Show they're kind of getting ahead before he gets re-overtaken by Albon. And as I said, we're going to be running standard for a few laps here just to build a little bit of tire. And that might actually be a terrible idea here because as you can see, Alonso has immediately just pulled away and we get overtaken by Gasly. So we'll gamble. We'll push tires up to aggressive again. And we'll see if we can stay with the cars in front for this race. And as you can see here, Perez, Leclerc, they're still pushing. So, not too surprising here. I think Gasly might be pushing too. Yeah, his tires are still hot. He's still kind of pushing. We have a virtual safety car. Debris in the wall. Show us lost out a little bit here, but again, it's kind of what we're going to have to do. The AI is probably going to be saving more tire towards the end. That is debris in the wall, indeed. And it's just straight up out.
There is a car in the wall, so watch for debris.
I think we're just going to have to run aggressive for the most part here.
The driver is okay.
And we're just going to have to work from there. Now, Gasly is getting a little bit of a gap to Bottas, and that is, again, one of the great weaknesses our car has this season. That's only going to become a little bit more prominent next season, is that we are really, really bad at following other cars. And honestly, it's going to be pretty bad next season too, but we're hopefully going to make up for it in having a car that is quicker to begin with. So we have some hopes on that front at least. Honestly though, this virtual safety car should have assured that we can now run aggressive till the end. And that's going to be the play here. Push that to everything, see if we can catch up to Gasly, get by him in this DRS zone maybe, and then work from there. Well, at least we are catching up, so we should be able to overtake them. For sure, he has a little bit of a, bigger problem at hand. Since he's the second car in a third car in a DRS train, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to overtake. But with the extra fuel, with the extra, tire, everything, we might have what we needed to potentially launch a bit back to, let's say, Alonso down the line. But right now, Gasly has to reacquaint himself with the DRS train, and that's going to make him really, really hard to overtake here. We're going to need some gaps to make that work. We're actually kind of falling behind ourselves here, so might be in a bit of trouble here, particularly now that I have completely used the battery up. So as long as we can stay in the DRS trains, we can run top up for a lap or two, hopefully. Although Bottas is already falling very severely behind. So we're going to try and make the best out of this, but honestly, I think we aren't going to be getting any more positions here. We're probably going to be falling backwards because we can't go as aggressive as we want on these tires. We'll have to see towards the end, though, if you maybe can go attack for the last 2 or so laps. Launch a bit of an attack there, but already our tires are starting to become kind of worse than the cars around us. So we might just turn him down to standard here and try and, make an attack later. We'll see. Bottas does have chances here with Gasly. But again, we are kind of limited on what we can do. So we'll bide our time a little bit longer. Things aren't really looking too good for us here. Bottas has fallen behind, as you can see, falling down the grid. Nothing really could do about that. We just don't have the pace, even if we were to sacrifice the tires more than we already have. Even like this, they're basically just almost going to be above 30% by the time we get to the end. Show us hold on to his position, can potentially launch an attack here on Magnussen, but as I said, we're not looking too solid here, honestly. We have a few problems we need to deal with. Verstappen is taking a potential victory here. Leclerc and Perez are fighting over second and third, which could, of course, also spruce up the championship fight a bit as well. So let's see what we do for Bottas. Probably just going full attack now for both of them should be okay. Verstappen is about to start final lap. We can also push fuel a little bit. And for Bottas here, we should be able to just go full deploy and try to at least get 10th, maybe. That should be doable. Now, we're going to have one more straight there for Bottas to try and get things done. Same here for Show. And as you can see, they couldn't really get the job in hand here. So rain is actually predicted after the sprint is over. So that's a bit interesting. I would assume that if we had a few more laps here, we might have seen some rain. Say we had another virtual safety car. But still, Verstappen lost out 3 places, Show gained 1. It's not horrible, I'll be honest. It's not necessarily a bad thing for us. Leclerc gets second, so not too bad here in terms of the gaps. Still pretty interesting. And there are some penalties that still needs to be applied, so we might still get lucky here, jump up a few places for both of our drivers for the race itself, which should be dry, unless I'm mistaken. Yes, it's going to have clear skies. Let's have a quick look here on what we can expect in terms of the compounds. There's about, once again, about 3/10 between soft and mediums. Degradation is the same, so about 10 laps advantage, which is pretty short in a 70-lap race. Medium to hard, advantage is almost 4/10. Degradation is about, again, 200, so about 20 laps. Well, a little bit less than that, 19 laps basically for mediums to become equal to hards. So not too shabby, honestly. If we could do, say, medium, hard, medium here, it might actually be a potentially good strategy because it'll allow us to push a little bit more aggressively on these tires. And that could allow us to do things that, to do a strategy that would potentially be better. Now, it is Brazil, which means that we can also potentially get a few incidents here. And as you can see here, soft, medium, soft. In theory, this strategy should be a good 20 seconds quicker. One stopper, also about 20 seconds slower. So while the mediums will be quicker than the hards for about 20 laps, that is if we go with a natural lifespan, we are running the hards here on attack. And the gain you get from running the tires aggressively and attack is often far more than the increase in the degradation. So that is basically why these aggressive strategies work. You're going to have high degradation, yes, but you get the degradation is less than the gain you have in terms of lap time, meaning that even if you burn tires quicker, you'll still be quicker doing it like this than if you did it, well, the normal way like this. The estimated race time is fairly accurate for that, and if you want to have a look at this compared to your, end of race time, take into things like safety cars, doesn't take account for those, virtual safety cars, anything that's kind of slows the cars down a bit, this is fairly reliable. So you can actually see what should be the best strategy from the strategy view before you start the race, but keep in mind, of course, that if I pit on lap 23 here onto the hards, will I be stuck behind a bunch of other cars that are going to make my life miserable? Or am I going to be able to overtake these cars and, make my life a lot better, a lot quicker? Now, we have two mediums for both, so we can actually run the same strategy for both cars, which is what we're going to do here. I am considering actually starting him on the hards as a bit of a cheeky one. See if that works, because if he can make that hard stint last, we could do something fun towards the end. So I think we'll switch things up here. We'll start show on the hards. We'll see if he can maybe stick to Bottas here during Bottas' medium stint. We're kind of actually giving show kind of a lift here, and that is the idea. And I think that could work, so we're going to try it. Now we're starting 7th and 8th, so again, not too shabby. It's in the points, and we'll have to see if we can actually, of course, make something out of this once we get into the race itself. But I think this is the best strategy for the occasion. Of course, safety cars, things like that can force us to reevaluate, but that is just what we're going to do once we get into said position.
Here at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
We have a lot of soft runners around us for the most part. Bottas immediately jumping on Gasly. But Gasly is coming back, so shouldn't be an issue. Although we might be able to just sneak ahead. Again, here, Show is the only one starting on the hards. It's kind of a gamble for us here to try and, make things happen. And I did forget to mention it, but the pit lane here is, again, medium. 24 seconds is estimated time loss. But yeah, that is a good start here. Both our cars, well, for Show he's retains, which is great. We also get the overtake on Gasly, which is even better. But the main thing here is now, can Show hold on to Gasly ahead? And, stay within DRS, because that is going to be kind of vital for this strategy, if you will. Now, Show has already gotten overtaken twice, so that's going to make his life a little bit more miserable. Both of them are soft runners, though, so it's not really a big surprise that gets overtaken. They're about a second lap quicker. But Show will hopefully be able to, get this back towards the end of the race. Now, the secondary benefit that we're actually getting from having Show do this is the fact that he is creating gaps in the DRS train already. And that is going to make our pit stops a lot easier for Bottas. But as soon as, the other cars tune down their cars again, I expect Show to relink himself to that DRS train over front. Wouldn't actually be too surprising if it did, although he is losing out quite a bit right now. So we'll have to see. We're going to have to probably slow down Bottas if we want that to happen. But for now, we're just going to run things as they are. And we're actually really happy with the current situation. Degradation is not... It's a little bit higher here for the mediums, but that's because we ran them on attack. So, honestly, for now, we're fine. Bottas is still running with the Gasly. He'll be fighting him. Show now has a driver in terms of Hamilton, who's on the mediums. So, honestly, I'll just leave things as they are. And we'll see where we stand once we get to that first pit stop in about 20 laps time. We have the first pit stops happening here. As you can see here, we had Alonso pit onto mediums as well as Sainz. Now we have Verstappen and Leclerc. So, pit stops are happening at the current moment. Show is still basically where he started. Bottas is lost out to Gasly. He managed to attach himself to a far quicker DRS train. But that is just how it is sometimes. Now, in terms of our pit stop here, it's honestly still looking really good, honestly. It's not great, but it's good enough. And that is going to be the main thing here. Now, Show staying out longer here is also going to, of course, slow down other cars, which could also benefit us greatly. But in particular, you can see that he's starting to catch Magnussen, he's starting to catch Ocon. the cars that started on the softs now and are going to be just slower and slower the longer they stay out. Now, for Bottas here, we're just going to go full attack now, and we're going to be pitting him, not on this lap, but on the coming lap. And that will be his pit stop done and over with, which should be no real problem there. Just get him onto the hards. We're going to go remain on full attack for that entire stint. And so far, there's no one who's actually elected to go on the hards. Most cars have gone onto, as you can see, medium tires, which isn't that surprising, honestly. Kind of what you'd expect. And we might stretch these hard tires of show an extra lap, just to make sure that we have enough in the mediums there to keep them alive. Bottas here is going to come out probably in between Alonso and Sainz, so not the greatest exit, but if we can say take advantage of Alonso, even though he has somewhat worn tires to pull us along, then we can still make this hard stint pretty good. Although again, the tires that he has are pretty worn. He's still going to be a bit quicker because he has a better car, and of course because those medium tires haven't been on the track for, you know, a long time. They'll probably be close to equal. Now for show here, is still running behind Ocon, who is running, you know, basically completely used up softs there. Perez pits as well. And show has actually crashed with him.
Right, so this was the fourth corner. The car makes contact.
That is a problem. That is a virtual safety car. That puts us in a really bad position because that means that the Hamilton, Stroll now both have fairly free pit stops. Show is of course going to have to get into the box himself here. And well, he has a puncture now as well as damage to front wing, side pods and suspension.
Here,
so
Ocon's part of that.
I think we are going to just retire him
Right, let's have a look as
with
we go
that
into
sort of
turn 4.
damage.
Dangerously close to each other. The cars coming together right there.
Because already, again, we don't have many components. Luckily didn't damage these components much, but with major damage to the suspension, minor to the side pods, and, you know, the front wing damage as well, I don't think there's a world here where keeping him out is going to get him in the points. It just isn't going to happen. So, we're going to go ahead and retire him. It's just going to be what we have to do. Bottas is currently stuck behind him, which under a virtual safety car too means that we can't really overtake him, which allows these cars up front now to get even more time on him, and that is kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
Watch for debris.
But we should be, technically now, if they've implemented properly with our Delta, we should be allowed to just regain that. But yeah, we'll have a look at the lap history with the virtual safety car. Because that is very unfortunate.
VSC ending.
That is a 7-second difference. And I would hope that we haven't lost that to the cars in front, because if we have, by being forced to kind of run behind a slower damage car, I'm going to be a bit sad. But hopefully that won't be the case. Stroll did not pit for some godforsaken reason. Gasly's running in 5th there, so potentially here, Alpine can make a comeback if, you know, the world allows it. Although we have taken out Ocon, so it's basically now Bottas versus Gasly. But Show did kind of sabotage Bottas there too. There needs to be an implementation that allows particularly damaged cars to just step away from the cars in front, if you will. Give them space. Or rather, just have the cars behind drive by them. Because that is what would happen in reality if cars on wrong tires are so slow on the safety cars that you can, you know, just drive past them. I feel like the same should be true for, on the yellow flags, a car that has a puncture, or basically is planning to retire. Although again, this could be just me complaining and nitpicking a little bit. You probably get where I'm coming from. But yeah, for now, we're just going to keep on pushing with Bottas. We still have one pit stop left to go, but keeping these hards alive should be no problem at all. We might see if we can keep them alive long enough to put on a medium stint that will be full attack. But for now, we'll just keep things going as they are. Might recharge here a little bit here, try and get by Alonso in the near future, and then hunt down Stroll. We're getting very close here now to our pit stop. We kind of run these hards into the ground. We're still running 9th. We have a few gaps back here that we can work with. Should be able to come out ahead of Albon. But we have 10 seconds up to, again, proper points. And Gasly is currently running in the lead. But again, he won't be able to keep those mediums alive till the end. If he does, I'll be very impressed. We are going to be jumping onto medium tires right now. And we have actually stretched these tires a little bit further. The hards here. So we can go full attack on the medium tires. Which should, in theory, give us an extra 4 seconds. And that is going to be the goal here. Now, if we are able to gain those 4 seconds, it's actually going to be pretty massive. And because of other pit stops here now, we're actually just coming out behind Alonso. So this works out to our advantage. But again, we'll have to see what Gasly actually does here. If he wins, he's going to be gaining a ton of points on us. So hopefully, we'll have something happen. Verstappen has overtaken him there. But if you look at it, we're about to get lapped. We're getting very, very close to such a scenario. Now that we have Bottas now on the correct tire, basically all pit stops done. Let's see how we're looking in terms of lap times, particularly to the cars in front. They should still be fairly quick, honestly. Most of them will be going onto the soft tire, I would think. We are running 1:10.9. So, sub 11 seconds. We're almost, we're running 8 tenths quicker than Alonso. Running about the same time as Stroll. So I don't think we're going to be catching any cars up front. It's basically just going to be where's Gasly going to come out? Because Gasly now is going to use 24 seconds to pit. He's going to come out around Russell or Stroll most likely. We don't have any chance of catching him. That's not going to be our goal here. We actually don't really have any chance of catching anyone. So honestly, what we probably should do here is just slow down a little bit and hope for an incident. And now we are going to have to slow down because he spun. And he basically used a lot of tire
Let's watch these cars as
wear.
they head into
So
turn 10. And the control's lost. In the end, just...
not much we can do there. But yeah, that did cost us a lot of tire wear. We're going to have to tune those tires down. I think we have less now than Stroll. Sorry, Alonso. No, we don't have less. But again, we're catching up. And that is going to hurt our chances even more. We're 14 seconds behind. I don't think, again, we have much of a choice here. We're just going to have to hope on Gasly not scoring too many points. Him getting 60 is probably the best we can hope for. I don't think Stroll's going to catch him. Gasly is on fresh softs. And again, we don't have it. With the gaps that we have, the best that we can hope for is just securing this 10th place. So we're just going to speed things along. There's not really much we can do to influence this. The only real influence that we have at this stage is save our tires and hope for a safety car. That's really it. The only thing we really need to pay attention to here is the gap to Magnussen. As long as that remains somewhat constant, we are perfectly okay with just securing this singular point here, I think. It is just going to have to be what we have to be happy with. Now, Gasly is actually catching up to Sainz. So, 5th place potentially in the works here for them. But yeah, not a good weekend for us, honestly. Particularly also with the fact that Show has caused himself some damage. And by extension us, hopefully we won't have to make any more car pieces, because if we do, that's going to be pretty costly as well. But we are getting close to the end here. Again, at this stage there's not really anything we could do here other than hope for a safety car. Other than that, our fate is basically set in stone. Gasly does get 5th, so Alpine will be gaining some points on us, but again, we have about 50 points, well 49 before this race, so we should still be fairly safe. The top 3 are the ones that are fighting for the championship, which keeps, again, this fight somewhat alive. Going to be interesting to see how that works out. Russell in 4th. Not great for Bottas, honestly. The fact that Stroll gets 7th. I believe that, makes it a little bit harder to catch up. We're going to need 9 points now. If we want to fight Stroll, fight now is with Hamilton, and of course trying to keep Russell behind. Verstappen takes the lead, 10 points ahead of Perez, 16 points ahead of Leclerc, with 2 races to go. There's still some, potential for fight. Again here, Alpine gains 9 points on us, but 2 races to go. They're going to have to pull off something pretty amazing. Only 1 pit stop this time around, because of course Show crashed out on those hards. We still have a pretty healthy lead though in this championship. I think we'll get that no problem. And we did once again have Bottas' worst nightmare, a stuck wheel nut. So we need to work on those error chances. They're not really good for us. at least we are reaching our performance targets here. The finish position was something that, of course, wasn't really a problem because we don't pay for it. It's something the game sets up on its own. But we'll take that, honestly. It's not too bad. Now, we have Las Vegas in 11 days, but I think although it is a bit short, we're going to be ending this episode here because, well, I don't have time to do the last 2 races, and I kind of do like to separate the seasons somewhat. So we'll be doing the last 2 races, United States, Las Vegas, and Abu Dhabi next time around, and we'll also finish up the season, figure out what we want to do with the contracts. But yeah, this was a bit interesting race in Mexico. We had good results there. A bit disappointing in Brazil, but that is how it is. And we'll have to do the figure out what we're doing with the car parts next time around. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed still, even if these episodes have become a bit shorter at around the hour mark. Kind of forced to do that just because of, well, time constraint at this stage. It's either this or, say, release 1.5 hour episodes every other day or so. But it is just what it is. I hope you still enjoyed. If you haven't liked, please do so. It helps me out a ton with the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so as well, as it does help me out greatly. So yeah, thank you for everyone who's already done both of those. I do appreciate you a lot, and I hope to see you around next time. Bye bye.